Hello everyone! Today I'm going to do a tutorial on how to destroy your sweaters. I have gotten so many requests for how to reconstruct sweaters, and I finally got around to doing it. I know that winter is almost over for a lot of you guys, but if you live anywhere near me, then you still have a couple months left of cooler weather. But I guess that this really isn't meant to keep you warm anyways because it's full of holes. So this is what I'm going to be showing you how to do. I know my camera lighting is absolutely awful, but basically I'm just going to show you how to create areas of distress and such on your sweaters. And the cool thing about this sweater, which is from Forever 21, it cost me $17.80, so 18 bucks. I really liked this sweater because it has these kind of panels on the front. Let me see if I can show you. You can see the seam right there. There's like two side panels, so it kind of creates like a V on the sweater. And I decided to do like the shredding and distressing along those panels because it would be kind of like a guideline. So I decided to shred along that area and down the sleeves. So I've done one side for you guys just kind of so you can get an idea of what it looks like. And I'm going to be doing a tutorial on the other side. I ended up using a looser fitting sweater. This is a medium, but it's kind of like loose to begin with because I wanted it to be kind of like off the shoulders and a little bit oversized. Since it's kind of destroyed, I thought that would be a good look. For this tutorial, I'm going to recommend that you do not use scissors, or the scissors that you would typically use, because you really don't want to cut holes in your sweater. You kind of want to create areas of distressing. If you cut holes, it's just going to look holy as opposed to reconstructed or whatever. So there's a couple tools that I would really recommend. The first tool is this seam ripper, and it looks like this. It is called a curved blade seam ripper. And I got this from Joann Fabrics for like $6. So it looks like this. It has a protective cover when you get it, and it has a really sharp edge right here. This is definitely probably the best tool for this sort of project, and it's relatively inexpensive. So this would be my first recommendation. Also, someone sent me a message one time that said they were trying one of my tutorials and they needed to get like 1,000,000 stitches. So I definitely want to say, no matter what kind of tool you are using, please be careful so you don't cut yourself or, you know, whatever. Another tool that you can use are these little thread snippers. And these are, God, I just still don't know how to pronounce this brand. It's like Ginger or Ginger or whatever the hell. I don't know. But anyways, these are the little thread snippers that you could also use. And you can get cheaper pairs of these. So these are kind of on the expensive side, just because of the brand, but you can get ones by like Fiskars or any other brand for like under 10 bucks. So this would be another tool I would recommend if you don't have a seam ripper. These tools are both good because they allow you to have better control of the area you're working on. So if you're using like a really large pair of scissors, chances are you're probably going to cut yourself, or you're not going to have a lot of control in the area that you're working with, which is why I would recommend these tools. And if you really need to use scissors, I would recommend using scissors that are smaller. And these are little gingers too, or gingers. So I have like 1,000,000 of these. These are like the baby version of the scissors I use to do all my t-shirt recons. Aren't they cute? Oh, they're little babies. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So you're going to need whichever tool you're working with. In this case, I'm going to be using my seam ripper, and you're going to need a sweater. I know that sweaters come in a variety of materials and fabrics and so on and so forth. The sweater that I'm using is 100% acrylic. It doesn't have any stretch in it. Sweaters are a lot different from t-shirts because the fabric varies so much. If you're using a sweater that is thicker or has larger threads, then you can modify this technique to achieve the same look with a different kind of sweater. I hope that makes sense. So we're going to get started, and I'm going to get closer to the camera so you can see what I'm doing. Otherwise, you're probably not going to be able to tell what I'm doing. I'm going to start from the bottom of my sweater, and it's also like neon yellow, and I know you can't tell in the camera, it looks kind of like a pastelish color, but it's super bright in real life. We are going to start by pulling a couple threads out of our sweater with our seam ripper. And all we're going to do that is kind of stick it in the sweater and just pull up, and that's going to start to create a hole in your sweater. So the way that you can kind of make these holes bigger and variant in size is just by pulling out some more threads with your seam ripper. And we're just using this to expand the hole. So we're not actually cutting out any fabric, which is why I would refrain from using scissors. So once I have a decent sized hole, looks like this, and you want to remember that, again, sweater material is different. So I'm going to stretch this out, and it's going to become like twice the size that it looks. So I'm going to just stick my fingers in the hole and give it a little bit of a tug. And there's my hole. And you can hear that I kind of ripped the sweater a little bit. You can do that, and I think that it makes it look a little bit better. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start to completely deconstruct this area of fabric. So I'm going to start by pulling out some of these strings. And you just want to like get a couple in your fingers and just kind of start pulling. I did a tutorial on how to create areas of distressing on your t-shirt, and it's kind of very similar technique to what I'm doing here. So you're just kind of going to pull these threads down with your fingers. And my other arm is like inside the neck, and it's underneath in the same area just to kind of help guide. And once you get the hang of it, you just want to kind of keep pulling it until you achieve the desired effect. And you're going to notice that sometimes this is going to be a lot easier in other areas, and sometimes it's going to be harder. It really depends on how big you make the holes and where the area is and so on. So I'm just kind of pulling it. You really just want to kind of stick your finger in there and then just kind of pull out more threads, so you're going to increase the area. I'm going to do this a few times so you can see what I'm doing, but hopefully you can kind of get the gist. You may get carpal tunnel from doing this, no lie. Like, this is just a lot of kind of like pulling with your hands and stuff like that. Okay. So we have created our first area on the side of shredding, and it looks like that. And we're going to keep doing that all over this panel along this seam, which is where I want to create distressing. If you want to go back after you've made your area of shredding and make like another hole or two, like all you have to do is stick your fingers in and just kind of pull the strings apart, and you're going to get that kind of hole so it looks just different, you know. It's not completely uniform throughout the whole segment. So I'm going to show you how to do that again. So what you want to do is you want to stick your seam ripper in and kind of pull a couple threads, or cut a couple threads rather. It's really hard to do this in front of the camera, like if you can kind of see like that. And I go horizontally across to make the hole bigger because of the ways the threads go in the sweater. So I would not recommend pulling the threads or cutting the threads vertically. You want to do this horizontally. So once I've done that, I'm going to go in with my fingers and kind of stretch the hole a little bit. So there's your hole. And then you can go in with your fingers again and start to pull these strings above and below the hole, and that's gonna really be the base for where you are creating this kind of deconstructed area. And then all I'm doing is kind of with my finger and my nail. Honestly, I know it looks like my nails are helping in this situation, but it's going to be just as easy if you don't have nails. In fact, I think it's making it slightly more difficult that I have these long nails. So I'm going to do it one more time, just in case any of you guys didn't exactly follow the first 2 times. Taking my seam ripper and creating my hole. So you really just want to continue to do that exact same technique anywhere that you want a little bit of distressing. And I did the sleeves the exact same way. The only thing different about the sleeves is it's slightly more difficult because you kind of have to reach in through both sides of your sweater to mess with the holes or whatever, but it's pretty simple, and yeah, I'm just going to do this on the other side and then come back and show you the final product. So this is my finished product for right now. I didn't do the back of the sweater because it's just kind of time consuming, but I'll probably go back and do it later. Looks like this, and you can see all the areas of deconstruction or distressing that I've done, and this is what the finished product looks like. I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial, and I hope that you were easily able to follow this, and until next time.